Allow your eyes to close gently. Allow yourself to find a position that's comfortable and stable, and one in which you won't have to move for the next few minutes. And allow the awareness to be pulled from the outer to the inner. Feel yourself grabbing those organs of sensation and perception that are so focused on the material world around us. Allow yourself to grab hold of them and pull them inward. Bring that awareness, that consciousness, that focus. Bring it in. And allow the awareness to merge with your breath. Don't try to change the breath. Just merge the awareness ever so slightly and gently with it. Notice as you're inhaling, notice as you're exhaling. And as you inhale, become aware that literally on the breath, that world outside is coming in, that sacred, holy and divine energy from the outer world, that which flows from the tops of the Himalayas, that flows across the waters of Mother Ganga. As you breathe in all that energy of the saints and the sages and the rishis who meditated here for thousands of years, that energy of awakening and enlightenment. As you inhale, breathe it in and notice how from that which was outside yourself, it comes in. And on the exhalations, notice how that which is in, that breath inside, how as you exhale, you're exhaling back out into the outer. Notice how it becomes this cycle of outer to the inner and inner to the outer in this unbroken cycle of energy of oneness. From the outer to the inner, the mountains, the trees, the river, the energy from outer to the inner, and the energy from inner to the outer. An unbroken cycle. And now allow yourself to notice in this sacred cycle of energy exchange that actually, as the outer comes to the inner and the inner flows to the outer, that actually there is no place. The outer ends and the inner begins. And there's no place the inner ends and the outer begins. But that actually it's just energy. That illusions of outer and inner dissolve as the energy flows on the breath. In a beautiful cycle of oneness. Allow yourself to really experience this unbordered, unboundaried existence. No inner and no outer, just breath. Gently bring the palms of your hands together and rub them against each other. Press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Gently lower the hands and open your eyes. Sure. A question here to start rather than one that came in advance. Did you have one in mind? Someone specific? Yes. Done.
There are two concepts or theories, materialism and spiritualism.
Okay.
Can, in the present time, in the contemporary world, can both go together? Because we see from international scenario on this whole planet, they're full of conflicts, struggles, right across from everywhere on the globe. Can spiritualism exist along with materialism or not?
So first of all, spirituality can never not exist. We can become as material a species as we want. We can become as misguided, misdirected a species as we want. It's up to us. God's given us free will. You want to spend your life focused only on how much you earn and buy? No problem. But that doesn't make spirituality stop existing. It just means that you are not benefiting from it. That's like saying, can the sun still exist if I lock myself in my room and close my curtains? Of course. Doesn't impact the sun that you're sitting in your room with your curtains closed. It impacts you only. And so, spirituality is not a belief system. Spirituality simply means, literally, if you look it up in the dictionary, all it means is pertaining to spirit, of the spirit. And so all spirituality means is, I've chosen to focus on spirit. Now, we have two options of how to focus our lives. We can focus on the matter, the material world, or we can focus on spirituality. Now, that's up to me, each of us individually. But if I focus only on spirit, it doesn't make my body disappear. My body doesn't say, oh, no one's paying attention to me, I guess I'll just dissolve. It's still there. I'm just focused on spirit. Similarly, if you focus only on the material world, spirit doesn't say, oh, well, I guess nobody wants a spirit anymore. Okay, forget it. The spirit is always there. The spirit, the soul, the essence, consciousness. This is the truth of what exists, of what is. That's the core truth. If you want to focus on it or not, entirely up to you. But it always exists. Now, so it's not about in our world. Can spirituality exist in our world with materialism? The real question is in my own mind. Because our world is made up of individuals. It's not that one day the wind blows in a more material sort of way and one day the wind blows in a spiritual way. It's not like when it rains you get wet, when it doesn't rain you don't get wet. It's not in the weather. It's in every single one of our individual choices. How are you going to focus? Are you going to focus on this physical body? How much I can make, how much I can get? What for me? Or are you going to focus on the spirit? Now, just because we focus on spirit doesn't mean that we don't do our jobs in the world. It doesn't mean that we have to renounce the world. It doesn't mean that we can't enjoy a holiday on the beach or in the mountains or a nice cup of tea or our families. Or people say sometimes, oh, if I'm going to be spiritual, does that mean I have to, give up everything? No. This world, this divine creation, the leaves on this beautiful vine behind us, the trees, this is sacred. And so there's no teaching in spirituality that says, thou shalt not enjoy the world. Thou shalt always be miserable. Thou shalt never smile. Of course not. God has created the creation. Of course we're supposed to enjoy it. Why would a sunset be so beautiful? Or a rainbow be so beautiful? Or the sound of a bird be so beautiful if we weren't supposed to enjoy it? Why would a baby's face be so beautiful if we weren't supposed to love it? The dilemma comes when instead of taking joy and connection and fulfillment from that which exists in abundance in this natural world, when I start to believe that my joy is going to come from something that I'm going to manufacture, a title, a degree, a name on a door, prestige, fat bank account, power over a lot of people, whatever it may be. But when we start thinking that it's going to come from that, the dilemma comes, it obviously doesn't come from that, ever. And if you doubt that, conduct a scientific study of lots of rich people. I actually did this. After I had been in India for about a year and a half or so, I was back in California visiting my family, and I had already noticed on a very, very deep level, as well as in my intellectual mind, on every level of me, I had noticed that there was a secret here. There was a secret about life, a secret about joy. That these kids on the street who didn't have shoes were happier than the kids I grew up with who had everything. That there was a secret. That the women walking through the mountains carrying firewood on their heads were happier than the mothers of friends of mine growing up with fancy homes and fancy cars. And so I already knew there was a secret here, but I'm a scientist at heart. And so I thought, let's do a study. And when I was back in California, I reached out to about 10 different people I knew, all of whom were at the absolute height of success in their different fields. So one of them was the CEO of a Fortune 500 billion dollar company. One was a tenured professor at Stanford. One was an actress. One was a singer whose songs were in the top 10 on the radio. One was a sports star. Lots of different people, different fields. All people I knew well. And I asked each of them, some in person, some on the phone, in the midst of a conversation. They didn't know I was doing a study. But in the midst of the conversation, I asked them one question. Are you happy? And each one of them gave me one of two answers. There were only basically two answers that came from all of them. I would be happy if, or I will be happy when. And the blanks were different. So I would be happy if my husband worked less and came home early, the kids would clean up their room, I could lose the weight that I gained over the holiday season, or I will be happy when kids grow up and move off to college, I get a better job, whatever it may be. So the blanks were different, but the sentences were the same. Two answers. I will be happy when, or I would be happy if. And it hit me so deeply because I realized these people are whom everyone else in the world is running to be like. If you're in business, surely on some level, your highest goal is CEO of billion-dollar company. If you're in academia, surely a tenured professor at Stanford is a goal. You're in Hollywood or Bollywood. Yeah, you want to be a famous star. You sing. You'd love to have songs in the top 10. All of these different fields, whatever field you're in, this is where people are running. Forsaking their health, forsaking their spiritual practice, forsaking their connection, to just keep running and running. That maybe I'll get to that place, and then I'll be happy. Then I'll be fulfilled. And here I had the absolute heights of each of these fields. And every one of them still had one thing between them and happiness. As long as happiness is an arm's length away, we'll never get there. And so the materialistic viewpoint, it's not that there's something wrong with matter. Matter is beautiful, right? I mean, sweater is beautiful, arm is beautiful. Divine image is beautiful, even the table is beautiful. Matter is beautiful, there's nothing wrong with matter. The problem with the materialistic viewpoint is through this matter I will find happiness. That's the only dilemma. Through this, through these clothes, through these jewels, through this money, through this house, through this car, I will find happiness. And not only does it waste our entire lives, but tragically, it also prevents us from finding that happiness where it really exists, because you cannot be focused in two places simultaneously. And so either I'm looking to that material world, or I'm looking to the spiritual world. And so dedicating yourself to spirituality doesn't mean I won't have anything to do with matter. Doesn't mean I won't have clothes or jewels or money or a job or a house or a car. It means I'm not looking in those things for my happiness, for my peace, for my identity. I don't identify as that. Many of us identify materially, right? My body is in good shape. I'm beautiful, I'm handsome, I'm good. I have a well-paying job, I'm successful. Our whole identity is based on that. There's a great story of a brother and sister. And the brother became very, very wealthy. The sister was more simple. And the brother used to host these very fancy luncheons, and he would invite the who's who of society, meaning the wealthy people. And one day his sister, innocently, assuming it's my brother's house, of course I'm welcome, shows up at his luncheon. Well, the brother not only had become very wealthy, but also was very materialistic, was focused only on what you have, what you look like, what's your title. Okay. So he sees his sister and he's very upset and he tells her, "You do not belong here. Go away from here." He sends her away. So the sister, first she's very sad, but she was wise. So she goes out, she gets herself a very high-paying job, she makes a lot of money, buys a lot of nice things. Lo and behold, she finds herself with an invitation to her brother's luncheon. So she arrives, and she mingles with everybody, and they sit down to lunch. And the servants bring out the beautiful food on the golden platters. And as her platter is before her, she takes off her earrings, she takes off her necklace, she takes off her bracelets, and she puts them on the table in front of the platter. So now the brother thinks, "Oh my God, what have I done? She's rich, but she's still crazy. I never should have invited her. She's getting undressed here in the middle of the luncheon, all of her jewels. What is she doing?" So he says to her, "Sister, put back on your jewels. What are you doing? This is not the place to take them off." She says, "Oh, I'm feeding them." He thinks, "Oh God, she's really crazy. She's going to humiliate me in front of everybody. What do you mean you're feeding them?" And she says, "Well, brother, I'm the same as I was before. Before I was not welcome. Now that I have jewels, I am welcome. Which means that it's my jewels you are looking to feed, not me. It's my jewels you invited to this party, not me. So I thought since they were the ones who were invited, not me, I should feed them. Clearly the lunch is for them, not for me." So I love that story because that's how so many of us move through the world. We identify ourselves and others based on what we have. And so spirituality says no. Spirituality says, sure, wear earrings if you want, no problem. But you're not your earrings. You're spirit. Your soul. And for me, sure, wear bracelets, wear earrings if I wanted to. But I'm not them. I'm not my jewelry. I'm not my clothes. I'm not my house. I'm not my car. Have one, sure, no problem. Bhagawan Krishna lived in Dwarka, a city made of gold. The presence of the gold didn't diminish his divinity. So it's not that the material world is itself the problem. The problem is our focus on, our attention to the material world as that which is the answer. That's the problem. And so live in the material world, no problem. But keep your focus, your awareness, your identification on spirit. And if we do that, then slowly, slowly we can actually bring it to the world. Because if I interact with you from a materialistic standpoint, and I look at you with a materialistic standpoint, I think, oh, his shawl, his pants, his this, his that, oh, either I like it or I don't like it, either way. What that does, because we're energetic beings, we feel it in each other. You know when someone's looking at you from a materialistic standpoint. Women especially, we feel it, but I think men probably do too. I mean, you know when someone is looking at your body and not at your soul. You know someone's looking at your clothes, not your soul. You know it. So if somebody is looking at you like that, what does that do? It puts you back in the identification as body, as clothes. The minute someone looks at you and goes, what do? Suddenly you're in that body. You feel that. Maybe there's shyness, maybe there's shame, maybe there's pride. But either way, you've gone straight into the body based on how that person was interacting with you. Which means that as we move through the world, rooted in spirit, and committed to seeing others as spirit, we create the space for others then to live as spirit. We stop sending people into body mentality, and we create the space for them to live in soul truth. And that then is what brings about that ripple impact into the world. Are there other questions? Yes.
I don't have a question, but I have a feedback and comment. Since coming to your ashram 10 days ago, doing your drop-in yoga, your Ganga Aarti, and also this lecture every night, it has made me become a much happier person.
Wonderful.
That's the feedback. And
Wonderful.
My comment is, you don't try to make us change our religion in a sense. Whereas the religion I come from, which shall remain unnamed, always tell us to convert people. So I'm very thankful to you and your organization.
So I'm very happy to hear that you are so much happier since you've come. But it was interesting, you said I'm a happy person since you've come, a happier person. What I would say is, maybe for the first time ever, certainly for the first time in 43 years, from what you told me the other night, you actually know who you are. You haven't become a different person. You've become an aware person. You've become an honest person. 10 days ago, you judged yourself and your life from a place of ignorance, from a place of that false identification. In 10 days, you've come to know yourself. You've come to experience that truth of who you are. And yeah, it feels really good. And what's so beautiful about it is it does make us happy. Because suddenly, who we are is enough. Suddenly, regardless of how many other people in the world like us, love us, appreciate us, praise us, regardless, I'm enough. Regardless of what I've achieved or own, earned, done, I'm enough. And that's really the core of happiness. You know, it's very sad. The Constitution of the United States grants us all the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I'm actually convinced that it's one of the reasons that we suffer from such a serious epidemic of depression. Because we literally are rooted in this belief that happiness is something we need to pursue. And if I need to pursue it, it means I don't have it. It means it's outside of me. And so, yeah, I've been granted the right to pursue my happiness. Better get started. Where's the shopping mall? Better get started. Is the sale on yet? 1 day left. Okay. That illusion that happiness is something that we are supposed to pursue is actually, I think, that which keeps so many of us from it. Because if I'm pursuing it, I'm not it. I don't pursue myself. So it literally indoctrinates us all from very early childhood into this belief that I'm not happiness. Happiness is out there, whatever it means for me. This job, this mansion, a condo on the beach, a night drunk with my friends, a gift certificate to the mall, whatever it may be. And you've been so blessed to have the courage, as I said the other night, the courage to really open yourself. Because that happiness, it exists for all of us. But we have to be prepared to open ourselves to it. And so, congratulations. And yeah, you're right. We don't try to change people's religion because your religion isn't the problem. There's no right or wrong way to know God. God is infinite. If God weren't infinite, it wouldn't be God, right? I mean, if God only existed in a box, then it would be something, but it wouldn't be God. The whole point of God is the concept of infinity, the concept of omnipresence, the concept of omnipotence, can do anything, is everywhere. And so if God is everything and everywhere, there's an infinite number of ways in. And the only thing that matters is that we connect with God. Whatever way. The only wrong way to connect with God is not to connect. The only wrong religion is a religion that makes me say, forget it, I don't want to be with God. Whatever way brings you to God, that's the right way. And so yeah, our goal is, it's not about changing religions, it's not about what book or name or form. It's about that presence of the divine within you. Because when you access that, you find that you can experience God in every form. Paramhans Ramakrishna, one of the beautiful, beautiful sages of India, actually did this. He was born, of course, in a Hindu family. He was living and serving in a Hindu temple and devoted to the mother goddess Kali. But after his awakening, he actually went out and undertook this very, very beautiful sadhana of trying to experience God in the form of Jesus Christ, in the form of Allah, in the form, he went through all the different religions. And he wouldn't stop worshiping God in that form until he experienced the presence of the same God that he had already connected with. And it's such a beautiful teaching because there are different ways in. But God is one. It's like here Mother Ganga flows so beautifully. The point is to go in. Do you go in by the marble steps here at Parmarth Nikathan? Great. Do you go in up in the sandy beach up at Ramjula? Great. Are you young and adventurous and jump off the rock upriver a little bit? Great. No problem. Ganga doesn't care. Ganga's not giving special blessings to those who jump off the rock upstream compared to those who walk down the steps or go down a cement pathway. Doesn't matter. Use whatever path works for you. Knee trouble? Go down the ramp. Right? Little unsteady, hold the chain, sit on the steps. Again, young and adventurous, jump off the rock. Doesn't matter. What matters is get in. Whatever works for you. But it's up to us to use our religion to get connected to God. Like we use these paths to Ganga to get in. And every path, every religion has its prophets, its masters, its mystics. So we know it's doable every way. It's up to us. Beautiful. Yes.
How can we let go of the ego, the false perception of what we think we are, but that's not who we are?
So how do we let go of the ego? So here's the dilemma. Where does the ego exist?
The mind
Where does the mind exist?
inside us.
So, in us, in our mind, there's ego. There's a lot of other things as well, but ego is a part of the mind. When I try to conquer it, let it go, push it away, the dilemma is it hears me say that. Right? It's like kids who the parents don't think know how to spell yet and who say, do you think we should go out for Pizza or not? And the kid says, yeah, pizza, let's go, let's go. It can hear you. It knows you're planning to get rid of it. It can double as whatever you want. So the ego then starts to play even more games. So what I have found is that rather than talking to the ego that I'm going to annihilate you, conquer you, cut you out, go to war with you, be done with you, I find it more effective to acknowledge that the ego exists, but that the ego is only harmful the more attention I pay to it and the more power I give to it. And so if I let the ego run the show, then I have problems. But remember, there's a lot of other aspects in my mind in addition to the ego. In fact, all of my spiritual awakening experience is also existing in my mind. The truths I know, the compassion I'm having, the love I'm feeling, that all exists also in my mind. And so if I can work on expanding the space in my mind such that there's more and more space for this awakening I'm having, for the truth that I'm experiencing from the awareness. Because if you don't feed the ego, it won't grow. So then what you've got is you've got a much more spacious experience and just a little existence of the ego. And as long as you don't pay very much attention to it, it'll start, it'll say something. Turn your attention away. Don't try to kill it. Don't yell at it, don't judge it, because that's also ego. So this is the dilemma of the game that we play. So let's say, for example, I'm walking down the street, you and I meet. And maybe accidentally you bump into me. Okay? Crowded street, you bump into me. So immediately maybe my ego says, who the hell does he think he is? Didn't he see me? What's wrong with him? Don't people pay attention anymore? God, what he must be. Then, suddenly another voice comes in and says, look at you judging that guy. Stop judging that guy. That's just the ego. The ego is judging. Out with you, ego. I'm not going to judge. See, I told you not to judge. You're still judging. You're never going to be spiritual. Don't you remember? Now you got bad karma for judging. So who's that talking? That's also my ego. It's another face of my ego. Everything that's operating in separation, in judgment, in tapes that are playing in my mind of random indoctrination I've gotten, it's all ego. And so you end up in this kind of battle of the two faces of my ego that goes nowhere. Instead, when the ego pops up, so the ego says, oh, how dare he? Instead of that, instead of yelling at it, judging it, trying to annihilate it, conquer it, beat it down, if instead I simply drop into my heart, I get out of my mind entirely, I drop into my heart, I drop into love. What happens then is that spaciousness then gets created in my mind. Nobody paid attention to the ego. It was like a kid shouting something from the way back of the car that nobody listened to. There's another ice cream parlor. Nobody paid any attention. Kid wants ice cream, but nobody's listening. There's another one, Mom. Nobody pays any attention. Eventually, he quiets down. He realizes, all right, I'm not going to get any ice cream. Nobody's listening. First couple times, he may throw a temper tantrum. That's when we start to really struggle with your ego when you embark on the spiritual path. Suddenly, here it is, throwing the temper tantrum because suddenly no one's listening. But slowly, 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 if you can allow it to exist, allow it to be there, just don't allow it to run the show. Don't allow it to make your decisions. Don't allow it to hijack your whole mind. The minute that you find it speaking, just drop into your heart or start chanting your mantra. Do something that pulls you completely out of the realm of the ego, that creates expansion in space. And you'll find then a way of coexisting with it. It's not about ever becoming completely ego-free, but it's about it not having any control over you anymore. It not being the one who calls the shots. It not being the one who speaks the words that come out of your mouth or makes the decisions for your life. It's like as parents or as adults, We don't turn to the babies in our lives and ask for their advice on the important decisions we're going to take. We don't ask them what direction to go. Even if they're screaming, ice cream cone, ice cream cone. We understand, okay, it's a child. Sure, that's what they're going to yell. The same way the ego is going to yell from its place of separation. It's going to yell from that which it was indoctrinated to yell. Let it be. Let it be. Bring the attention to that which is real, that which is true. The heart, the expansion, the connection, the oneness, the truth. And slowly, 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 its power will dissipate. Okay. Then you'll find yourself actually free of it. It'll still coexist, but you'll be free of it even existing with it. You don't have to kill it to be free of it. You just have to stop letting it run the show.
जिद हो ऐसी, जिद करो कि दुनिया बदल जाए, जिद करो कि दुनिया बदल जाए, जिद हो ऐसी